is among us in Southern California, which means that the water temperatures are dropping. This time of year is what separates the fair weather surfers from those who are committed to riffing. Take it from me, it doesn't matter whether you are on a wave storm or foam adjacent board or a Peisel Ghost. We are all out in the ocean, freezing our butts off for a well-deserved hit of serotonin. All right, full disclosure, I'm still a beginner surfer. I've been teaching myself how to surf for the past 2 years, and I've made pretty much every mistake that a beginner surfer can. So I'm gonna tell you what I did so that you can avoid those mistakes and hopefully progress a little bit faster. First off, I want to shout out Bree Surfs, who made a similar video talking about her surf progression. I watched that about a year ago and it was so helpful to me. I hung on to every word. But that being said, everybody's surf progression looks different. I think that's why surfing has such a steep learning curve, because there are just so many factors at play, like the types of waves you're surfing, the types of boards you're on, your consistency, and the amount of time you actually get in the water. And because of that, there's no right way to progress off of your foam board. It's gonna look different for everyone. But here are the stages that I went through to progress my surfing abilities. Stage 1 is my absolute beginner phase. I caught my first ever wave on an 8-foot soft top surfboard under the supervision of a surf instructor. There are so many videos on the internet about which surfboard you should choose as a beginner, but really there's just one right answer. Start with an 8-foot wave storm or an 8-foot foam board. If you're a taller person, like over 6 foot, you might even want to opt for a 9-foot foam board. The bigger the board, the better for wave catching. I never wanted to listen to people who said this because, you know, I have a Pilates background, I have really good balance, so I thought that maybe I could progress a lot faster than other people. Plus, I spent a lot of time on a boogie board, but surfing is a different animal. Ride the foamy. Everybody has to do it. And honestly, the foam board's really fun. They don't call it a fun board for nothing. The first surfboard that I bought was a 7-foot Aventura's foam board, and I probably should have just gotten the 8-foot. This board was a whole foot shorter than anything I had practiced on prior, and I felt it, okay? It was a big jump. I remember having issues just balancing on this board. Not even when I would be standing on a wave. I would just have trouble balancing while I was paddling out. Like I felt wobbly, like I could fall off at any moment. But I kept at it, my abs got stronger, and I eventually figured it out. I got it secondhand on Facebook Marketplace for $100. I wouldn't pay any more than $100 for one of these boards. They're mass-produced and really durable. Just find one that's not terribly beat up. This first board was great for practicing my pop-ups in the whitewash and just getting used to the feeling of riding a wave. As I progressed, I started using it to catch my first green waves, which I would ride right into the shore. I was on my foam board for about a year, going somewhat inconsistently. In the beginning, consistency is really hard. When you're working in the whitewater, it's rough. I mean, it's really loud, there are crashing waves constantly, and the waves that you're riding aren't anything fun or impressive. But if you stick with it, it only gets better. You know you're ready for your first hard surfboard when you start to feel independent on your foamy. By independent, I mean you're able to paddle out into the lineup with ease, and you do it while controlling your board. I wouldn't get on a hard board until you are confident that you can control your board. That means not ditching your board when a big wave comes. Understand the basic timing of the ocean. You know the tactics for getting to the lineup, like you've mastered the turtle roll and separating yourself from your board so that the whitewater can flow in between you and the board without dragging you all the way back. And you're consistently able to catch your own waves without someone pushing you into them or using your feet to push off the bottom. You may have heard people say that foam boards are kind of hard to turn. I think this is true, but one thing you can do while you're still on the foam board in order to get longer rides is by angling your takeoffs. So instead of riding the wave straight into the shore, you can kind of angle your board towards the way that the wave is crashing. That way, when you stand up, you're already the direction that you need to go in order to be riding down the face of the wave without having to do some sort of turn to get you in that position. You'll get a longer ride when you angle yourself down the face of the wave, and you'll get used to riding the green part of the wave with the most power instead of riding straight towards the crumbling, already broken parts of the wave. I think the biggest tip I can give is just consistency. Don't be afraid of a forecast that doesn't look good. Whether you catch something or not when you go out there, you're still learning so much just being in the lineup, watching the waves break, and having experiences when you fall off your board. It's all helpful. More time in the water means more progression, and go out there and have fun. Stage 2. Finally getting off that foamy. The transition from the foam board to the hard board is probably the biggest transition you'll make, so I wouldn't rush it. On a hard top, your surfboard is going to be much more responsive, but you also have to work way harder for it. Like the first time you get on a lower volume board, you're gonna realize that you have to paddle way harder. You have to position yourself closer to where the wave is actually breaking, and it's kind of scary. But when you've been using the foam board and you feel confident for however long it takes you, for me it took like a year, maybe a year and a half, then it's time to transition onto something a little bit different. For me, the next board that I got was a 7.0 egg-shaped board with a thruster setup, meaning that it has 3 equal-sized fins. So I didn't consult with anyone before buying this board, and honestly, I was not ready for it. Although it had the same beginner-friendly shape and it was the same length as my foam board, because it was made of a different material, going from foam to fiberglass, it had way less volume, and I really struggled on this board. I was struggling to get into waves on this board. I wouldn't really understand why it wasn't working for me. I had no issues keeping my balance on this board, but it was tough because I couldn't generate my own speed on it. And that's how I learned about positioning. See, on a foam board, it doesn't matter where on the wave you're taking off at. You can take off on the shoulder, you can take off in the white water, and it won't matter because you have enough float to support you. Once you're on a lower volume board, you have to sit closer to the peak of the wave, because that's the spot with the most power that's going to propel you and allow you to ride that wave. My first hard surfboard was crucial for teaching me that not all parts of the waves are made equal, and there actually is a reason why surfers clump up to certain spots in the ocean. They're not just doing it because we're all besties out there. People want to be in the part of the wave where there's the most power and the most drive. This 7-foot board felt really sinky, and I already was surfing these mushy beach break waves with not a lot of power. I was afraid of waves that were bigger than 3 feet, so this was just not a good board for me. I surfed this board for about 2 months, alternating with my foam board, before I decided to trade it for a different board. Next, I got a single fin, similar egg shape, 7.2 board. As a beginner, I was really preoccupied with the length of a surfboard because I thought that that's what made something a beginner board, but really the volume is what matters more than any one dimension of the board. My second egg board felt totally different. It was super thick, super wide, and the single fin made it feel super slow, but in a good way. It felt totally different and really boosted my confidence. My specific board is kind of a weird board because it's custom made. I just haven't really seen anybody ride a board like this. I think it's got a bit of a retro feel with the single fin and it being kind of a longer mid-length, but I love riding the single fin. It allowed me to work on my form, pop up slowly, and get used to doing slow, drawn-out bottom turns. It's way easier to get used to maneuvers when you're on a board that slows you down. If you can do it on a slow board, then you'll have an easier time doing it on the fast board. The single fin was really helpful for teaching me maneuvers, how to kind of glide on a wave, compress my body and expand my body to go up and down the face of the wave. Knowing what I know now, I would not have bought 2 separate egg boards. If I had to do it over again, I would have just bought a mid-length surfboard with a 2+1 fin setup. 2+1 has that big single fin plus the 2 side bites, so you get a good mix of the stability and drive of the single fin, plus some extra turning ability and stability with the 2 side bites. Stage 3. To longboard or to shortboard? That is the question. At this point in my surf progression, I had to ask myself, what type of surfing do I want to do? The best thing that helped me get from that beginner phase to like a low intermediate which I think I still am now, was variety. Just surfing a bunch of different breaks, getting out with surfers who are better than me and more advanced than me, and also trying a bunch of different surfboards. Something that I started doing pretty much every time I went out was I would ask my friends in the lineup, hey, can we switch boards for a couple waves so I can see how your board feels? Longboards feel totally different than shortboards. Your mid-length is going to feel different than a true longboard. A foam board, not a foam board. They're all gonna feel really different, and it sucks because most surf shops don't let you try before you buy surfboards anymore. If you have some friends who have additional boards, I would really recommend asking if you can use them, even if it's just for a couple waves during your session. During this time, I rode a fish, I rode a traditional longboard, I tried another wide mid-length, which had a different fin setup. That's really the best way to figure out what you want. For me, I wanted to start progressing downward. So I got my final and current surfboard, which technically counts as a shortboard, although the volume on it makes it kind of more like a groveler. I got a 6'4" modern Highline. This has been a great board for me. It's wide, it's thick, and it's beginner friendly because it helps you get used to riding shortboards while still packing in a bunch of volume. I got mine secondhand, and I'd read online that it's a ding magnet. And it is, okay? I've never touched a surfboard as fragile as my modern Highline. These are mass-produced boards, which means it's got a pretty good shape. You know, they're popular for a reason. It's just not a really good investment. The thing that I've learned from shortboarding as opposed to longboarding is that there's really like a very small margin for error. If your pop-up isn't fine-tuned, this board is going to put you on blast. Your form is really important on a shortboard because it's really responsive. So if you're looking for that type of challenge, I'd say go for the shortboard. If you're more concerned about just riding long, slow peeling waves and, catching everything and having a good time, then stay on your mid-length or start venturing into the cross-stepping of a longboard, because that's a whole challenging art that I have no idea about. Honestly, both styles are really, really fun. And on weeks when I've already surfed 5 times that week and my muscles are sore and I'm tired, but the waves are good and I want to go out there anyways, I'll just take out a longer board. I'll just take out a bigger board so that I can be lazy with my pop-ups and just enjoy some fun without having to have everything dialed. All that being said, I really love my shortboard. I think the natural progression from that board is to go to something a little bit thinner and taking it on waves that are more powerful, but I think I'm gonna be riding this one for a little while as I continue to progress. So that's how I did it, and I'm still learning every time I go out there from surfers who know more than me. Getting to learn how to surf as an adult has been one of the most rewarding and fun things ever. So yeah, that's my surf progression. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and have fun out there. I'll see you guys in the next video, or maybe in the lineup. Bye.